That down. Let's move on to this, shall we? Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice. Say it 3 times and $100 million will appear. As Beetlejuice Beetlejuice just absolutely dominated the box office by making $110 plus million in its opening weekend. Now, let me get this out of the way. I think the movie is total crap. I think it's not the worst film I've seen this year, but probably going to be in my top 10 worst films of the year. I think it was totally garbage. But that said, I couldn't be happier for it. I love seeing movies succeed, even if they're films that I don't like. And I don't like this one, but I love seeing movies succeed. And there are a lot of people who do like this movie, and I love seeing movies, especially that people enjoy having success, and whatever's good for the movie business is good for me. So I was absolutely thrilled to see how it did. As a matter of fact, it's hit some historical kind of numbers. This comes to us from Variety, who writes this. Beetlejuice Beetlejuice, the sequel to Tim Burton's 1988 horror comedy about a pesky poltergeist, scored a huge $110 million from 4,575 theaters in its opening weekend. Those ticket sales rank as the second biggest September debut of all time. It beats out It Chapter 2 that made $91 million in its opening weekend, and only behind 2017's first version of It that made $123 million in its opening weekend. All 3 of those September record holders belong to Warner Brothers, by the way. Beetlejuice Beetlejuice is also the year's 3rd best opening weekend, coming behind only Deadpool and Wolverine that made $211 million in its opening weekend, and Inside Out 2 that made $154 million on its opening weekend. The film delivered a needed jolt to the domestic box office, which was lagging after a humdrum end to the summer season. I mean, let's think about it. You think about, throughout history, the number of films that have come out in the month of September over the decades and decades and decades. Especially the It films. And Beetlejuice Beetlejuice just became the 2nd biggest ever and the 3rd biggest opening weekend of the year. At $110 million, which, Ray, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the first Beetlejuice movie, I think it had an opening weekend of $8 million or something like that. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I might not be remembering that correctly. I think the first one had an opening weekend of like...
It got, let's see. Sorry.
You got it there?
74 million? Or wait, the opening was 8 million.
$8 million opening weekend. Not a bad improvement. Not a bad improvement.
That jump is impressive.
I mean, that's a pretty steep jump.
Yeah, but the years in between the 2 movies too, you got to include that. So.
Oh yeah, I mean, absolutely. There's a lot of caveats to that for sure. But this thing is an absolute smash success.
I'm shocked.
I mean, I'm surprised, but going into it, like, remember the early projections were saying like 85 million, which was huge. And then like 2 weeks ago, they adjusted that to like 100 million. So I'm not like falling out of my chair surprised, but if you go back 1 year and told John Campea from a year ago that Beetlejuice would open to $110 million, I would fall out of my chair. I would have fallen out of my chair. Couldn't be happier for Michael Keaton. Where those audiences were to support him as Batman, I don't know where they went. But
I mean, what do you think this will do? Like, do you think it's just the Beetlejuice fans coming out, or do you think people are yearning for Tim Burton back in the theater?
Oh, yeah,
like
a number of
Edward
things.
Scissorhands too. What do you?
No, I don't personally think there's like it's a huge Tim Burton thing.
Frankenweenie too.
No, I could be wrong about that, but no Tim Burton. I mean, Tim Burton had like the whatchamacallit, look this up, the Alice in Wonderland, Tim Burton's Alice in Wonderland,
Right. I got you.
where the first one had a huge opening, but then the second one, I think, remember the second one taking a massive drop.
Right. The first one made 116 opening.
And what did the second one make?
26. Alice Through the Looking Glass.
Yeah,
Made
that was 26. So quarter.
Yeah, so like massive. So
75% drop.
I don't think this is a Tim Burton thing. Tim Burton didn't hurt. but I don't think this is a Tim Burton thing. I mean, one of the other things is, we say this about some other films too, competition.
Yeah, there was none.
If we take a look at this, like
Yeah.
Beetlejuice made $110 million. But what else was there? Deadpool in its 7th weekend. 7th.
Yeah, you're right.
7th weekend made 7.2. Reagan made 5 million. Alien Romulus in its 4th weekend. It Ends With Us in its 5th weekend. I mean, even Twisters down at number 7 was in its 8th weekend. So it was helped by that, but still, it doesn't matter. Listen, it doesn't matter if there were no other movies in the theaters. There was $110 million worth of people who wanted to go out to watch Beetlejuice. And listen, I was somebody who was again, I didn't like the movie, but I was won over by the trailers. I thought the trailers were great. They had a great marketing campaign, not only because it was just good trailers, but the philosophy of the marketing campaign in Beetlejuice was, number one, lean into the nostalgia, but show something new. And they did both of those things incredibly well with all of their marketing. Michael Keaton got out there and worked the room. He did out there and spun this thing as hard as he could. And I think it just shows that when you've got the right property at the right time, and listen, I admit, I thought the time for a second Beetlejuice movie had passed. I fully admit it. I thought if you were going to do another Beetlejuice movie, even though it's much later, I thought 15 years ago was the time to do it. 10 years ago was the time to do it. Turned out 30 years or however long it's been since the first Beetlejuice.
It's a long-term investment.
Yeah, long-term investment. So, I mean, the marketing campaign was brilliant. They captured that right sense of nostalgia. They added to that nostalgia by adding an incredibly hot star right now in Jenna Ortega. Not that she's ever had like massive, big blockbuster box office success, but she's a hot name. So they mixed that in with it as well. And they killed it. Now, I'll be very interested to see how it does in its second weekend.
That's the problem I'm having, because when we went to our showing, it was pretty much you could see the demographic in there. It was pretty much the people who watched it when they're younger, like us. There was nothing else. There's no kids in there. There's no super old people. It was just
now granted, when we saw it, we saw it at a 3 p.m. in the afternoon.
And that turnout looked pretty good for a 3 p.m.
It wasn't
in
about
110-degree weather outside.
Well, everybody was just looking to get into an air-conditioned movie theater, I think. But I mean, here's the thing too. This has got to raise questions because they've been very definitive that they're not doing a Beetlejuice 3. But again, we'll see, right? Like, look, this thing could take a 70% drop in the second weekend, or it could take a 45% drop in the second weekend. I mean, because remember, this weekend,
it doesn't have anything really.
No. There are
this weekend?
Not massive prime time movies, but 2 movies that's got movie fans excited. The new James McAvoy movie, See No Evil.
Speak No Evil.
Sorry. Speak No Evil is opening, and the Dave Bautista, The Killer's Game, is opening this weekend. Now, will Beetlejuice have big, strong word of mouth? Will it get a lot more people wanting to go back for a second or third screening? Will other people who didn't go the first weekend want to get it? It's going to be really interesting to see how the second weekend does. But listen, man, this thing is a massive success, much bigger than I thought it would be initially. And again, even though I don't like the film, I love seeing movies succeed. And I love seeing fans getting out to the movie theaters, having a good time. I don't know why you had a good time at it, but you did. A lot of people had a good time at it.
You can't drop it.
Can't drop it. I'm still so mad that they got me to buy into it with those good trailers. Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of this video, Mando. Guys, I've got to tell you about something that changed my whole body care game. Mando Whole Body Deodorant. Now, I first heard about Mando last year when they offered to become a sponsor of the show, and I was honestly skeptical. I mean, a deodorant can't really control odor for 72 hours, can it? But after using it myself, I am a believer. You can use it anywhere on your body, and I mean anywhere. It's clinically proven to keep you smelling fresh for up to 72 hours without any irritation. I'm loving the clover wood scent, but they've got options like bourbon leather, Mount Fuji, Pro Sport, and even unscented if you prefer to go stealth mode. I like to use it after the shower, before the gym, or even important meetings. It's that reliable. And right now, Mando's got a killer deal. New customers get $5 off their best-selling starter pack with my exclusive code CAMPEA. That's over 40% off. Just go to Shop Mando, that's SHOPMANDO.com, and use the code CAMPEA. Seriously, guys, if you want a deodorant that's aluminum-free, baking soda-free, and just works better than anything else you've tried, it's time to make the switch to Mando. So don't wait. Control body odor anywhere with Mando. Head over to shopmando.com and use the code CAMPEA and get $5 off your starter pack. Trust me, you're going to love it. That's at shopmando.com. Go and check it out now. But still, it's great to see because, like the article said, after Deadpool and after Inside Out 2 and big success for Alien Romulus, the second half of the summer has kind of petered, right? That big momentum it had petered out. So to have a movie like Beetlejuice come out and have a big win at the box office for everybody, I think it's absolutely huge. Like how much of a drop do you think it's going to have in its second weekend, Ray? Percentage wise, like how much of a percentage drop do you think it's going to have?
65? I don't know. I don't really follow these things, so I'm just guessing 65. I don't know.
I'm thinking 62. I'm going to be very close to yours.
Mine was a little too high. So,
No, I mean you might be close. What do you think, Jonathan?
Yeah, I think 60 is. Typically, we look at these things and it's like a 50% drop is average.
But but
think
remember
60. But like you said, this could surprise us and be like a 43% drop or something.
Normally, what you want to see in your drop is right around the 50% mark, right? But remember, for movies that have huge opening weekends, like this one
Most people saw it.
Yeah, more people saw it. So you got to expect the second weekend drop off to be a little bit bigger. Spider-Man No Way Home had a record smashing opening weekend. It had a 70% drop off in the second weekend, but that was because everybody went to go see it. So I think somewhere between 55 and 65% drop off would be a totally acceptable drop off for a movie that just opened this big.
What would be an amazing number?
40.
Like
50.
50.
And then what would be
40.
there's no more hope. Like we're
over 65.
Yeah. If you're hitting like 70%, it's like, oh, it's done.
Yeah, I think I think if Beetlejuice on the heels of a $110 million opening, I think if it has a 50% drop off, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I think they got to celebrate that. Again, 55 to 65, I think is totally comfortable. Anything over 65, then I think they start to worry about it a little bit. But listen, I don't know what the budget on Beetlejuice was.
I think it was 100.
Was it only 100?
100 or yeah.
If you can double check that.
Yeah.
But if it was $100 million budget, they're going to get into profitability by the end of the second weekend.
Yeah. Well, because worldwide they're at 145 million.
Yeah. So by the end of the second weekand, they'll be profitable.
I think even with the theaters take, they're close to the budget, but not marketing budget.
Yeah. So whatever listen, they spent a lot on marketing on this one because they marketed the hell out of this movie and they did a great job with it.
Okay, what came up was the first Beetlejuice's budget. that one's amazing, but let me see.
Well, what was it? You can't just say that and not tell us.
No, the first Beetlejuice budget was 15 million.
15 million.
That is crazy. So the budget for Beetlejuice was 100 million.
Yeah.
Okay, so 100. I'm seeing some people say it was 100 to 110 million. Yeah. So by the end of the second weekend, this thing's going to be a profitable movie just at the end of its second weekend.
And even though you didn't like it, there's nothing else in the theaters like this movie. So
there's nothing like it.
Yeah.
No, this is a very, very. I mean, Beetlejuice has always been a very unique property, right? It's always been a very kind of has its very, very distinct identity, right? I mean, listen, if somebody were to ask me what movie should I go watch this weekend, I would say go see Alien Romulus or Deadpool again. By the way, when is the last time? I don't know the answer to this. I don't know that anybody can find it. But just think about it. When's the last time a movie in its 7th weekend was still in the top 2? I
would say maybe
the first Avatar?
Oh yeah, I guess so. I was going further back. I was going to Home Alone because Home Alone was big and it had legs.
Yeah, Endgame wasn't still in the top 2 in its 7th weekend. Some people are saying that I would think my guess would be the first Avatar,
That's a pretty good.
because that one actually went up week over week for the first few weeks. So maybe that one was it. But yeah, anyway, let's just say, no, it definitely wasn't Top Gun Maverick. But I mean, let's just say it doesn't happen often that a movie, we're talking about Deadpool here, that a movie in its 7th weekend is still in the top 2. Like, that is crazy. And again, good for Alien Romulus still being in the top 5 in its 4th weekend. And what is Alien Romulus made now? Alien Romulus,
It's at
314 million, which
Yeah.
makes it the highest grossing horror movie of the year and the second highest grossing movie in the Alien franchise. And by the way, speaking of Ryan Reynolds, Blake Lively, congrats to her. Her movie It Ends With Us has also crossed $300 million.
309.
Their kids are gonna get good Christmas presents this year.
And It Ends With Us did not have a $100 million budget. But
No.
again, Beetlejuice totally dominates the box office this weekend. $110 million opening weekend, the second biggest September opening weekend in history, the third biggest opening of the year. There will be some more movies coming out later this year that might bump it down a little bit, but this is an incredible result for a 30-plus year second film. Absolutely amazing. Guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? Beetlejuice just crushed it with $110 million, setting all kinds of new benchmarks. What do you think about how high do you think it can go? What kind of a second weekend drop off do you think it's going to have? A really reasonable one, a bigger one than they want to have? Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching this video. Make sure you like the video, leave a comment, and subscribe to our channel. And don't forget, we have a daily podcast called the John Campea Show podcast, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcasting app of choice. Go and subscribe to it today so it'll be there when you need it.